Do you express emotions through dance? Are you the loudest voice in a room? Do you ruin perfectly good clothes by staining them? If you've answered yes to these questions, you are undoubtedly a Sandhill Crane. Let's dance. Despite standing around 4 feet tall, Sandhill Cranes are not the tallest bird in North America, with that honor instead going to their cousins the whooping crane. Still, Sandhill Cranes are an impressive sight, but they are surprisingly subtle during the breeding season as they blend into their wetland habitats thanks to their cryptic plumage. Speaking of feathers, you may have noticed that Sandhill Cranes can be either gray or brown. What's up with that? Well, Sandhill Cranes must have some strong feelings about the color gray, as they intentionally stain their fresh gray feathers with mud, turning them a brownish color. In reality, Sandhill Cranes use this tactic to help them seamlessly blend into their wetland breeding habitat. Male and female Sandhill Cranes have identical coloration, though males are usually larger than females. Still, it is notoriously difficult to determine the gender of these birds. Additional notable characteristics of these bugling birds include red foreheads. Juveniles look similar to adults, but their entire crowns are reddish-brown. Sandhill Cranes are members of the Gruidae family, a group that includes all 15 crane species that exist. Their closest relatives are the Saurus crane, the Brolga, and the white-naped crane. Watching a group of Sandhill Cranes is mesmerizing, as these amazing avians demonstrate a wide array of memorable mannerisms. However, their trademark behavior is certainly their stellar dance moves that would even rival Happy Feet. That's right, Sandhill Cranes love jumping for joy and prancing around when paired or in larger groups during the non-breeding season. Many associate these dances with breeding, and while dances seem to be important for reinforcing a pair's bond, the twists and twirls of these groovers of the bird world are used to communicate year-round. In addition to their leaping dances, Sandhill Cranes will demonstrate their displeasure by jumping and kicking an adversary. A quality that has helped Sandhill Cranes rebound from extirpation in many places is their adaptability. Although wetlands are essential breeding habitat for most Sandhill Cranes, these versatile creatures flourish in grasslands, agricultural fields, river valleys, open forests, and many habitats during the non-breeding season. They can afford to live in these environments thanks to their omnivorous diet that includes seeds, grain, berries, insects, and small animals. Half of the 6 Sandhill Crane subspecies are migratory, embarking on annual migratory journeys that range from several hundred miles to several thousand. Despite their large size, they are efficient flyers, able to glide on thermals with ease. Sandhill Cranes are not typically in a rush to migrate, so they will usually wait for favorable winds for migration instead of fighting against the wind. These delightful dancers stick to their family groups during the breeding season if they have a partner, but they form massive, gregarious groups during the non-breeding season in which they forage and migrate. The most famous concentration of Sandhill Cranes can be viewed in the Platte River Valley during spring migration. Here, upwards of 1 million Sandhill Cranes can be viewed annually. Once you hear the unusual, low bugling call of the Sandhill Crane, you're not likely to forget it. The captivating sound can travel miles and can be quite startling when heard at close range. Sandhill Cranes are monogamous, with some forming lifelong bonds with their partner. However, loyalty is no guarantee, as couples may split up if their nest fails. These steadfast sandhills display tremendous degrees of nest site fidelity, meaning they almost always return to the same location to raise young annually. It takes a considerable amount of time for these lumbering giants to reach breeding age, with most not breeding for the first time until they are anywhere from 3 to 8 years old, an eternity relative to most birds. However, when you can easily live to be more than 20 years old, you can afford to take your time. Pairs work together to build the nest, a cup-shaped structure made of wetland vegetation, mud, and occasionally sticks. The nest is nothing fancy, but is more than adequate for containing the 2 eggs the female will lay. It also helps that nests are often surrounded by water, limiting the amount of predators that can access the evolving embryos. Sandhill Crane bibbies are known as colts. They are nidiferous, able to walk around almost immediately after hatching. This is a precarious time, as anything from crows to canines would love to enjoy a colt meal. Fortunately, the parents are no pushovers, as they'll use distraction displays similar to killdeer to lead potential predators away. Sandhill Cranes are more than capable of being aggressive in the face of danger, using their feet and bills to attack threats. One gnarly account from 1976 detailed a sandhill crane eliminating a coyote by driving its bill through the eye of the outmatched opponent. Like any siblings close to one another in age, sandhill crane colts quickly begin brawling with one another. The fighting will continue until the dominance hierarchy is established, but parents don't often give their colts a chance to sort out their differences, as each parent takes responsibility for looking after one of the colts once they hatch. As colts grow larger, their chances of getting eaten decrease dramatically. Young sandhill cranes remain with their families long after they've fledged, often not splitting up until the onset of the next breeding season. Even then, it's not uncommon for sandhill cranes to meet up with their relatives during family reunions on their wintering grounds during the non-breeding season. Categorizing the sandhill crane into subgroups can be a confusing matter, as more emphasis has historically been placed on the 9 different populations rather than the 6 unique subspecies. 3 of the subspecies represent small populations of non-migratory sandhill cranes, while the other 3 subspecies represent abundant migratory birds. Let's start with the non-migratory subspecies. Both the Cuban and Mississippi subspecies are endangered, but their numbers are stable or increasing. The Mississippi population is up to more than 100 birds after numbering only about 30 in the 1970s. Captive breeding has been essential to the success of this subspecies. The Cuban subspecies totals around 500 birds, and their numbers appear to be stable. They are the most unique sandhill crane subspecies, as they define the norms of this species in many ways. For instance, they breed in open grasslands rather than marshes. The Florida subspecies is thought to contain less than 5,000 birds, but their numbers are thought to be declining due to habitat loss. The remaining subspecies are migratory and numerous, breeding from Massachusetts to Siberia. These subspecies are presently expanding their ranges, recovering excellently following dramatic losses in the 19th and 20th century in the face of habitat loss and hunting. In fact, their numbers are so robust that sandhill cranes can now be legally hunted in more than a dozen states. In total, there are easily more than 1 million sandhill cranes, and they have earned the distinction of being the world's most abundant crane species. Despite the challenges facing some subspecies, the species as a whole has a bright future.